Welcome to Be Less Stupid. Today, I've got 8 answers to the question, why do Republicans hate Obamacare? Reason number 1 that the Republicans hate Obamacare, in no particular order. It forced 20-somethings who did not have insurance but could afford it to buy it, or face a significant penalty tax. Republicans argue that this is a redistribution of wealth, which they are zealously against. It forces healthy people who choose not to have insurance to spend money on something they don't want or don't think they need. Money which then actually pays for the healthcare costs of people too poor to afford it. And as Paul Ryan might say, too dumb to get sick. Reason number 2 that the Republicans hate Obamacare. Because the government would subsidize the premiums of people who can't afford healthcare, it meant that the government would now have a role in which it could interfere with the relationship between patients and their doctors. And to Republicans, the doctor-patient relationship is nearly as sacrosanct as the one between a hedge fund with numerous offshore accounts and a billionaire investor going through a nasty divorce. All right, reason number 3. Republicans believe that government should have little to no role in establishing or maintaining a set standard of living for all Americans. Rich people get to eat filet mignon. Poor people, they get to lick the Omaha Steaks catalog. Okay, now reason number 4. Government premium subsidies for those who can't afford insurance would ostensibly come by raising taxes on the wealthy, which again, Republicans are against and would refer to as a redistribution of wealth. Reason number 5. Obamacare mandates that all employers must offer, among several insurance options, at least one plan that covered the cost of birth control, other reproductive health care, and in some cases abortions. Things which Republicans are also against, along with, of course, any sex that happens in a place other than the marital bed with the lights off, and both parties fantasizing about Jesus. Reason number 6. When Obama won the 2008 election, Democrats now controlled both houses of Congress. Republican strategists determined that the best way to win back control in 2010 was to block or filibuster every single piece of Democratic-sponsored legislation. That way, they would have no Democratic victories upon which to run in the next election. All right, now, reason number 7 that the Republicans hate Obamacare. Despite the promise that competition would lead to lower premiums and costs, in general, that has not been the case. No joke here, that is an actual problem. All right, reason number 8. In 2009, when a new president had control of both houses of Congress, he forced this dramatic healthcare change on Americans without bipartisan support. Even after 60 House and Senate attempts to overthrow Obamacare, no Republican has ever voted in favor of it. In fact, Obamacare has been called the most hated thing in Congress ever, if you don't count Ted Cruz. Okay, so those are the reasons that the Republicans hate Obamacare. And look, I'm not going to pick apart each one of those, although I could make a reasonable countervailing argument that would undercut most of them, but I'm not going to do that. Why? I'm going to tell you. Because when you think about healthcare, its cost and access to it for all Americans, there are just 2 questions you need to ask and 1 fact you need to know. What kind of country do you want to live in? What kind of person are you? And between 10 and 20 million additional Americans now have health insurance thanks to Obamacare. If you believe that access to healthcare should depend upon your income, that only people who can afford to see a doctor get to see a doctor, and that people who are too poor to see a doctor should rely on whatever they can glean watching Dr. McDreamy on Grey's Anatomy on a TV behind an electronics store window, or only going to see a doctor in person during a life-saving emergency at a hospital which won't deny them care, even though emergency room care is infinitely more expensive than preventative healthcare visits. If you believe poor people should watch Grey's Anatomy, Chicago Med, MASH, and House if they get sick or injured, continue to support Cheeto Jesus. And of course, pray that you don't lose your own job. Because that is Trump's plan, to overturn the Affordable Care Act, and he's going to do it on day 1. And then 10 to 20 million people who had access to health care the last 3 or 4 years will no longer have access to health care. Remember when you were a kid and you had a red Tonka fire truck or a Barbie and your parents took it away because you misbehaved, think about how fucking mad you were to have your favorite toy, the one with the authentic lights and the siren, or the Malibu beach house, ripped from your tiny presidential hands. It's gone, vanished. You screamed and yelled, kicked, stomped on the bed, called your parents motherfucking assholes who don't understand what it's like to be 17. It went on for hours, or until you passed out, or your parents gave in, because they're suckers. Anyway, that is how mad you were about a toy fire truck or a plastic doll with real authentic fake blonde hair. Now imagine that you have cancer, or maybe you're genetically predisposed to have cancer, and instead of having your precious red fire truck or Malibu Barbie ripped from your tiny presidential hands, what's taken away is your chemotherapy. That's it for this episode of Be Less Stupid. You can see the first 30 episodes for free on our streaming service, factbox.tv, along with nearly 30 hours of original, uncensored, ad-free, factual entertainment shows. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I will see you next time. Unless you're really sick and can't afford to see a doctor. In which case, it was good knowing you. See ya.